You guys are going to love this new bundle from scrapbook.com. I created 2 cards with it for you today. Hey everyone, it's Joy here and welcome to my channel. All right, let's talk about this bundle. You get the cottage patterned paper in this bundle. Isn't it gorgeous? Now, I don't have the price of this bundle at the time of filming, but I will have it for you guys down in the description below here on YouTube. But look at these beautiful patterned papers. I created 2 cards using this bundle. I do have a couple of add-ons that are not part of the bundle, but beautiful. This is the You Are Sunshine stamp and coordinating die, which is always fabulous. And then the cottage dies here. You guys, look at these. I love this die set. I had so much fun using these products. Okay, from the cottage dies, there is this little oval. It has scallops. I love it. Of course, I'm using some of that patterned paper from the cottage patterned paper. I'm going to run that through my die cut machine. And then now we have this fun little piece. Then this is not part of the bundle. This is the stitched scallop block frame. This is a newer release from scrapbook.com. Die cutting that, I want to save the outside frame. Again, I love the scallops. I am here for all of the scallops. So on our first card, I want to pop up that frame. So I'm going to add 2mm foam adhesive strips behind my frame here. This is going to be adhered to a white A2 size card base. I have done all of my die cutting ahead. I did a lot of die cutting from the cottage dies. You have pumpkins and sunflowers, acorns, different sizes of pumpkins, leaves, different kinds of leaves. So many fun die cut pieces that you can make so many cards with. Okay, now that I finally have all of my pieces, because I did try to forget 2 little spots there, I'm going to remove the release paper and center this on my white cardstock or white A2 size base. I also die cut this again, and I'm using the reverse side of a different pattern paper from the cottage pattern paper in that bundle. I wanted a solid piece of cardstock to go behind all of these little squares because I want my images to pop off of the background. I'm going to use these little tiny images that are in the cottage dies because I thought this is perfect for images like that. And then we're going to add a larger pumpkin as our focal point. But these are going to be our little side characters here. So I have these 2 little sunflowers. I have die cut all of these little components, these little pumpkins and leaves. Those are all die cut from the Retreat Smooth cardstock. Again, not part of the bundle, but absolutely goes with it as far as color combinations go. I'm using gathered twigs and wild honey to just do a little bit of ink blending because I felt like they needed a little something, but you could leave out the ink blending if you did not want to do that. It would still be a beautiful card, but I just felt like I needed the little something extra. I think the small pumpkins, if I remember correctly, are actually from the cottage pattern paper, but don't hold me to it, but I think they could be. Then we are going to have this fun blue pumpkin. That's going to be part of our focal point. So I'm going to add a little bit of the gathered twigs to that oval part. And I just flipped the paper over so it's a little bit different on the other side. Or excuse me, it's a little bit different for that center oval than it is for the scalloped oval. I'm adding 1mm foam adhesive behind all of my little images. I am going to flip over the oval frame here with that centerpiece, and I'm actually going to adhere it together with 1mm foam adhesive. But because they're 2 separate pieces, I need to make sure that my foam adhesive attaches or kind of goes over the line where the 2 meet together. Making sure I don't have any foam adhesive sticking out through those circles. I love this little oval frame, you guys. I think it is so delicate, so dainty, and so pretty. I love scalloped everything, and I love that there's the little hole so it feels a little more lacy. Now this is going to be part of our focal point, so I'm going to center this over the center part of that frame. Now I can add all of my other little pieces. So let's get this taller pumpkin. There's 3 larger pumpkin dies and then 1 of those smaller pumpkin dies. This is the tallest of those larger pumpkins. Then we have our acorn, we have some sunflowers, and our little pumpkin. And so I'm just going to place those in here. And actually, I had glued everything upside down. My card was opening the wrong way, so I did have to turn them, and I just did that off camera, and it was so not a big deal. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what the heck? Okay, in my Misty, I am going to use the sentiments from the stamp set. There's fun images. I did not use those for my 2 cards today, but I am using 2 of the sentiments. The small sentiment, and I love small sentiments. I really do. I'm going to stamp that on white cardstock with black ink, and it says, "You are delightful." Isn't that a fun little sentiment? I love it. And I'm going to use the coordinating die to die cut this out. I'm going to tape that down and run that through my die cut machine. I'm going to add 1mm foam adhesive behind it. And it was just a little too white. So I did take my sponge dauber that had the gathered twigs on it and just lightly went around the edges just to give it a little bit of aging. I'm going to do that one more time because there's a spot there that I just did not get very well. And then I'm going to place that across the pumpkin. Then we're going to go on to our second card. So I am using the Nested Vintage Classic dies. This is going to be the front of our card. And so I want a bigger die cut to die cut out. I'm centering that in my pattern paper because we're going to create a window essentially. And so you can keep that little piece and use that for something else, but I need the whole A2 size piece. Then a solid piece, this is from the cottage pattern paper as well. I'm going to line these up. I'm just going to use a little bit of mint tape at the top. That way I can take the next size smaller Nested Vintage Classic die and make sure I'm lined up good, and I can tape that in place. I wanted to see if I wanted this paper here, but I don't. I feel like the solid cardstock breaking up the 2 patterned papers is going to make sense. So I'm going to get this taped in place, and then I can remove that top piece of cardstock and then run this through my die cut machine, and then everything will be nice and centered. Again, I don't need the centerpiece. I need the whole A2 size piece. So let me run that through, and now we have our little centerpiece here. Perfect. Okay, let's glue these together. I'm going to adhere this solid patterned paper to our front piece of our card panel. Let me turn that around, get that lined up, and look at that beautiful little frame. I love it. Only if I can get it straight, right? I mean, I always glue things crooked. Then I'm going to add a 2mm foam adhesive behind this. I had this roll from Laura Graff's class from SBC Fest that just happened just this past week, this past Friday, and I was an instructor on that. You guys can go and still watch the replay. You might be able to get some of the kits or at least partial kits. And yeah, it was a blast. There was so much to learn, and I had a good time chatting live with everybody. Okay, let me get this adhered down. So now we have this fun little dimensional window. I do need to stamp my sentiment again from the You Are Sunshine stamp set. It says You Are Sunshine. And I'm going to stamp that with black ink inside here. Then on my GripMate, I'm going to use that and do a little bit of ink blending with all of my die cuts here. Again, these pieces were die cut from the Retreat Smooth cardstock. That again is not part of the bundle, but it goes along with the cottage patterned paper beautifully. So a little bit of the ink blending with the gathered twigs and a tiny bit of the wild honey, just to give it a little something. I wasn't trying to go crazy with it, but I just felt like because the first card I did a little bit of ink blending, I needed to do that on this card as well. That's just my own personal choice. You don't have to do that. Let's glue our sunflower together. I love this big sunflower die. So cute. I love the leaves. I love the pumpkins. I love this whole cottage die. I think it is fantastic. So again, I'll put the price for you for the bundle down in the description. Whatever it is always good. You always save a ton of money when you get these bundles. I love them, and they just go together so nicely. So putting together a bunch of cards when you already have like matching cardstock and things like that is so easy. 1mm foam adhesive behind this sunflower we're going to place up here at the top. We're just going to kind of go on the top and the right of this, hugging that open frame and that sentiment. I've got a couple pumpkins. Well, I've got 3 pumpkins here that I'm going to put in place. The leaves have 2 different sizes, which I love that. So let me just tuck this pumpkin in here with 1mm foam adhesive. Some of these things will be lifted with foam adhesive, some will not. And then I'm just using some liquid glue at the base of my leaves and tucking that in, letting the tips, the ends of the leaves lift up. It gives natural dimension without gluing everything from, you know, top to bottom down completely. I just don't think that that needs to be done. I think you could leave leaves and things like that and flower petals where they lift up just a little bit. So really we are just building our little floral arrangement here with a few little pumpkins. So I'm just checking to see where I want that pumpkin to go. I'm going to tuck the leaves in under the other pumpkin. And if you need to trim off part of the leaf to get it to fit, go ahead and do that, because you're not even going to see those at the end. Or in the back is really what I meant to say. And then I'm going to tuck a couple leaves on the inside of that frame. Then there's these tiny leaves that are going to go on the pumpkin, and I actually meant to put those on the pumpkin before, or the pumpkins, before I glued them to my card, and I totally forgot, but no big deal. I'm just going to add a few little clusters onto each one of the pumpkins. And I just think they're darling. Just another little addition to this card, and this will be on an A2 size card base, just like the first one. But I love, again, that solid color of frame between the 2 patterned papers. And again, because you are using it out of the patterned paper pad, they all go together. So no matter what you put together, it's going to go. And it's kind of is a no-brainer, especially if you're someone that has a struggle with putting things together like that. Grabbing things like this makes it so super easy. I'm going to use vanilla bean pops of color. So it's not super stark white. It's a little creamier, and I thought this card just needed a little something extra that breaks up all of those colors. So adding something like this, or a gemstone or a sequence or something, really makes a difference. So I'm going to add a few more around the sentiment, and then let's take a look at these up close. I love this. I love all of those die cuts, and I think this pattern paper really is so pretty. And I love those little extra add-on dies that I'm using that are not part of the bundle. They really, really are so fun to use. And I really love the layout design of this card. I just think it turned out so fabulous. All right, guys, this video is done. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you feel inspired by these 2 cards. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys have an amazing day. Bye.